Okay, so Will, this is like the first time I've ever done anything like this. So I may
Oh
have
yeah,
to just like repeat myself and just cut some stuff together because
that's cool.
I want this to sound good and coherent. And
I'm sure it's
um,
gonna
I,
sound great, dude.
I've been doing some research on interviewers and just, this could be a space I want to play. Um, so
This
we'll
is a
see
cool
how this
space.
goes.
I honestly think, there's a reason why John Q started a pod and Braden started a pod because the pod is honestly where things shine. Like you can shine, like, where people get to see you outside of the video to really
Yeah,
get to know you. That parasocial relationship is real, you
yeah.
know?
It's
Yeah.
also an outlet. And
Yeah.
um, Well, let me back up. Guys, we're talking to Pickleball Will today. Fortunate enough for him to be the first guest on the Matt's Pickleball podcast.
Oh,
It's
is that what
probably
it is
gonna
now? You're
it,
I love it.
it's probably gonna blend into my Paddle of the Week episode and or series, my Paddle of the Week series, and probably turn into that. I use that as an outlet to talk about all things paddles because like you, maybe not to your the level or extent that you're getting product, but I'm getting product, every other day. And I wanted an opportunity to highlight the brands and products that are sending me gear, versus sending me this product, this paddle, and I could only spend a day or two, maybe a few hours playing it before something else comes. And then before something else comes. And I wanted an opportunity to talk through these products and like, hey, what's interesting? Like what's not? What's good? What sucks? And so I I don't think it was my idea. Everybody does sort of like this roundups thing, but this is my first like step into, talking about a multitude of things instead of a dedicated, review.
Video.
Um
Yes, no, I get it. I get it. There's a lot of stuff. Honestly, I've been getting a lot less stuff, partly because I just haven't been nearly as active. But I came across the same issue and the same problem, which is why the pod um was nice with Chris, because that was an opportunity to talk about just gear overall without dedicating a whole entire video to something. So I
yeah,
get it. Yeah.
yeah. We're going to get into all that.
Yeah.
But first I want to set this up a little bit. So a few weeks ago, you and I were fortunate enough to get an invite to go to the Bread and Butter Nerdy Tourney. That's where I first met you in
Yeah.
person. Feel like I know you because as I progressed in becoming more of a pickleball nerd, I mean that with the utmost respect. You and Chris were the first guys that I found on YouTube, and that was John, then it was Braden, and it's a whole host of others. And I want to wind back your story and go through it all together. But at first, I wanted to share um, how I got sort of hooked in this pickleball space, in this pickleball product space. My background is in managing digital products, in creating digital products. So I've always
Mhm.
been a gearhead, like the latest iPhone comes out or the newest Apple Watch comes out, gotta have it. It doesn't matter if you don't know anything about it yet, you gotta have it. And it's the same thing with paddles. It's like, oh my God, it's Tuesday and something else just dropped. I've got to have that. And so I imagine our stories are similar. At least I would think so, in the sense that at some point you probably got tired of shelling out a couple $100 every other week, which accumulated to, maybe $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. And you're like, there's got to be a better way. And for me, that was this creative outlet that emerged to start a website, to try to start an Instagram, to try to start a YouTube channel. It's like, can I get companies to send me free paddles? Because my wife is not very happy with me when she sees the credit card
Spending all
bills,
that money.
so my ultimate goal was just to earn enough to pay my website hosting costs. And And I've certainly, achieved that. But I have a ton of gratitude for pickleball companies that, send their products hoping for something good with nothing else, promised in return. And bread and butter is no, I don't know how to describe it, but uh, uh, they're certainly one of the companies that I've admired and looked up to. So to get that invite, to be able to go with and meet other content creators and play with them and meet people like you was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in my life. Um, so, um, so that's how this started, guys. I met Pickleball Will. We didn't get a whole lot of time to go deep, but the short amount of time we had to converse, like I've been intrigued by what I've heard about you, what I've read about you, what I've watched about you, and then watching this sort of progression on
Mm.
YouTube, on the Pickleball Studio podcast, and you and Chris, and then there was a departure, and then Will's doing something else. Will's advocating to spread pickleball, and so my sense of you know what you're doing right now in the brief moments that I had to speak with you in Vero Beach at Bread and Butter headquarters is like, you're like one of the ultimate evangelists for this sport. And I just felt like
Mm.
there's so much to unpack. And I like there's a story there. And if there's some way that I could help bring it out, I'm super interested. And I think other people would be as well. So um, let's let's
Yeah.
get let's get into the background here. So like
The background. Okay, before we
totally.
get
So
into
so
that,
yeah, yeah.
let me plug in my camera into the outlet just because it's running on battery, and I feel like this might be a while.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, let's
You
have the
got it.
powers right. Yeah, you said intermission. This is where that's where
Well,
you put
and we'll be right back.
your intro logo. Yeah, you
We'll be
know.
back in 2 and 2.
Yep, yep, exactly. All right,
Okay.
so
So Will,
yeah,
so can you walk me through let's go way back.
yeah,
And can you walk me through
take it
your
back.
family story and where they're originally from and what it was like growing up in Virginia, and if there's anything I'm misstating, just correct me.
Yeah,
Um, you
man,
know,
that's way
I'll
back.
set this up just a little bit. You've
Yeah.
shared that your parents are, or I've read this somewhere, that your parents are Cambodian refugees, keep me honest,
Yes.
who
Yep.
escaped from, I can't pronounce it, like a genocide.
Yes, the Khmer Rouge
And
genocide.
so like Khmer Rouge, thank you. So like, just like, how did growing up in that household, um, shaped by that kind of survival story impact where you're at now and what you're doing now? So, like, just walk me through your family
Mm,
story.
mm. Okay, all right. So my family story, yeah. They escaped the Khmer Rouge. They were not together. When they escaped, they were first refugees in Thailand. So they escaped to Thailand, and at the time, at the refugee camp, my mom at the time was very sick. My dad was still fairly healthy, and my dad was volunteering, helping people out at the refugee camp. One of them happened to be my mom. He just didn't know it at the time, my future mom, right? And at the time, I think different countries and nations were helping get refugees out of Thailand. And my dad and his friend group, they were all separated. Some went to Australia, some went to France. He got selected to go to Canada. And I think a year or two later, my mom and her family, because my dad's family, they was completely separated when my dad was trying to escape. My mom also was selected to go to Canada, to another part of Canada. She got selected to go to Montreal. My dad went to Toronto, or at least around the Toronto area. And at the
Mhm.
time, my dad, he was learning English, taking like night classes, working as a pumpiste. The people who pump your gas, or we don't have
Yeah.
that now. It's all self attended right now. Uh, and I think my dad somehow kept in touch with my mom, got word, saved up enough money, and pretty much went to go find my mom and ask her to marry him. And then so I'm actually born in Canada, in Newmarket,
Okay.
Ontario, just outside of Toronto. And probably like kindergarten, I can't quite remember, first grade, that's when they moved to like Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia. They're working in Washington, D.C., moved to Northern Virginia. And I didn't see much of them growing up. They're just busy working, and they're just like most
Yeah.
immigrant families just trying to give their kid a good life. I'm the first, uh, at least one of the firstborn here, in America, of my family. So growing up, it was a little tough. There's definitely a cultural and like language divide that I think both of us, me and my family, my parents had to navigate, you know? Um, but there was always this idea of like hustle and dream, that my parents kind of instilled into me, maybe a little bit too much, uh, because, my parents are always like, go to school, get a good job,
Yeah.
have a high paying like profession, right? But in my head, I'm thinking, I'm always thinking at like the next thing, what's cool, what excites me, because it's like my parents worked hard and sacrificed a lot to give me the opportunity to do something that I really want or really enjoyed. So I'm like, okay, it'd be a waste not to try something new or to
Yeah.
take that opportunity, to versus just being quote unquote basic, I suppose you could say. Um, I was always just diving into new things, to new endeavors, either to, I guess, to maybe to my detriment sometimes, because it was almost like ADHD. I would play all different types of sports. I'd say one week, I want to be an astronaut. The next week,
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, Dad, I just want to help you take over your business. And he was just my family all just repair jewelry and they sell jewelry,
Okay.
and that's pretty much all that they did. And I mean, aside from kind of like basic things like, I dealt with the 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 trials and tribulations of just growing up like everybody else does, maybe with an extra layer of complexity just because of cultural differences and, like I said, the language barrier, helping my parents understand certain things in English,
Yeah.
et cetera, things like that. But I was always just moving around, always a fairly creative kid. I always, from a young age, knew I liked art,
Sure.
in visual style, things of that. I was into like kung fu movies and filmmaking. I was into drawing, anything like that. I was just like really into. Um, but that's pretty much my parents' origin story. And this is me just kind of
Yeah.
growing up, just the regular life.
So how big's your family?
Um, uh, I mean, the extended family is huge, I would say, but my immediate family, not so much. Just me, my brother, my mom, my dad, and then I have a few like closer cousins, from my dad's side that live in Northern Virginia. But my extended family is just ginormous. Like it's like Game of Thrones. Um, no, it really is. Like me and my brother and my parents, like our last name is Chang. I dubbed us, I call us the Chang gang, and there's like just like a small group of us, right? And then there's the Nunley clan. We call them the Nunley Nation because they're huge. There's like they name themselves cousin number one through like I think 30. There's like 30 of them. I don't even know all of them. It's crazy. I feel like every single year a new one pops up that I didn't know about. So
That's
that's
amazing.
kind of crazy. Yeah. And then
So
my
you're
one lonely cousin Alan is his last name's King. We call him the Lonely King.
the Lonely
You
King.
know. Yeah.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
your parents, when they left Cambodia or Thailand, they didn't do that together.
No.
And now I don't know when this was in history. Are we talking 30 years ago, 40 years ago?
It's 20 now. It's in the 70s.
70s. Okay.
70s to late
In
80s.
the
Yeah.
70s. That's
So
good. So
yeah.
what are the chances that your dad finds your mom?
I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy.
Uh,
It's very slim chances, I would say. The fact
in
that,
Canada.
yeah, well, yeah, in camp. Well, I mean, they were at the refugee camp. That already is pretty rare. Like that genocide, I think it like decimated like one third of the population. I don't know the exact
Wow.
numbers, but one third of the population. My dad is one out of 11, and he doesn't know what happened to all of his brothers. And
Wow.
yeah, any of his brothers. His sisters, he knows some of them made it through, but some of his brothers, he has no idea where they went. And so the fact that he survived, was crazy. My mom
Yeah.
too, the fact that she survived and she got out was crazy, but also when she was at the refugee camp in Thailand, she got hit with malaria, and so they didn't know she was gonna make it either. So, but she was able to come out into full health, and that's where my parents met by chance. And then, of course, being selected to go to Canada, and my dad finding out and somehow, going across Canada to find her and ask her to marry her, and the fact that she said yes. Yeah, there's a lot of things
Wow,
that had to
man.
have happen. Yeah.
That that's incredible. What a remarkable story. Uh, I can't you can't even fathom what they must have gone through,
I
and not
still
even
can't
to
fathom.
know even to this day. So, um, one more question on this topic. Do your parents have any of their immediate family living in Virginia as well, or
Yeah,
are
mhm.
they all still in, Cambodia, Thailand area?
Um, my mom's, like, immediate family lives in Northern Virginia, like, all of her sisters. They're pretty much we all pretty much live in, like, the same neighborhood or same neighborhood, like, community. Like, I could walk to all of my mom's sisters' homes.
Fun.
We're all there. My dad, less so. Some of his immediate family, my cousins, he did sponsor them over. They lived with us for a little while, but now some of them are in like Chicagoland, like the suburbs are,
Yeah,
some of the towns like an hour east or west out of Chicago. And then we have some other cousins that are in, like Vancouver, Seattle, California,
yeah,
you know, everywhere. Yeah, but
all
my
over.
mom's immediate family, most of them are in Northern Virginia still, so I
Cool.
still see them. Yeah.
That's so. How do you think their journey shaped how you approach um, risk or career moves? Like, and you'll have to keep me. I'm going to say this a lot throughout this episode, guys. You're going to have to keep me honest because I did research. And I hope it's accurate. And so if I
Yeah.
get a weird look from Will, we're going to know it's not accurate. But how do you think their journey shaped how you approach risk or career moves, like your decision to move back home and
Yeah.
reset when you were in your early 30s?
Yeah. Uh, I've always been a risk taker, you know? I think hearing my parents' stories from a young age, I'm like, "Okay, if they can do it," it's like I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, "Okay, it's in my blood. Like, I can do this too." You know?
If
I
you
can take these
think
risks,
about
I
it,
can see
like
what happens.
there's
Yeah.
no like you can't outdo their risk,
No, I
right?
can't.
Like,
Exactly.
and so it's almost like, Will, what are you talking about? This is,
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal.
Right, exactly. It's not that big a deal. And that's the way that I looked at it. And for me, you'll find this is kind of a common theme with me. Like I'll do something and I'm really just following my gut, my intuition, my heart. Like if I like it, if it feels good to me, like I'm gonna do it or I'm gonna try and do it. I'm trying to, live my life with no regrets. I want to like look back and even if I fail, like I'm like, okay, yeah, I did it. I don't want to regret any
Yeah.
decisions that, I've made. Right. So that's kind of how I look at things. And I've hit rock bottom before, numerous times, and I've been able to dig myself out and got out. And once you kind of get out of it once, you're more inclined to take risks again, I
Yeah.
think, because it's like, okay, I got out of it once. I know my limit. Like, let's do it again. Because, the next time you get back up, that could be the next time you, you know, hit those goals that you want to
Something
hit,
hits
or
big.
maybe your business is successful or whatever. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of like the mentality I've lived with, just at least for the past, I would say, couple of years, just
Yeah.
reset. And I've done it so many times. I'm just like, okay, this is just another time. Although it is getting a little tiresome now at my current age and where I'm at in life, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm gonna do another big risk, but yeah, maybe we'll see. We'll see.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So you've done kung fu stunt videos. I think I saw some break dancing, some photography
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
one of your Instagram channels. So I'm gathering from the what has it been, about 15 minutes we've been talking so far, that you're a very, very creative person. And I can tell that in the production quality of the stuff that, you've put out there. Um
Yeah, try to be. I mean,
have you
sorry, this
always
one is
been that
not
way?
as it's yeah, I would say so. If it's not creative, like visually, it'd be creative in other ways. Even when I'm playing, like growing up, I would do what I call death races down this hill called La Petite in my neighborhood with my friends, and we would just pick up a skateboard and we would basically luge down, and we'd like have to pick our weapon. It'd be like broomsticks or sock and boppers or whatever, and then we'd start at the top of the hill, and basically whoever survived who got to the bottom would be the winner, and we would try to sabotage each other and knock each other off. And so I'd say that was fairly dangerous and creative, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, even like growing up, I mean, me and my brothers and my cousins and our friends, we would like duel in like Yu-Gi-Oh cards or Magic the Gathering, and whoever's now we would clear out a whole entire living room space, like in my basement or in my living
Yeah.
room, and we would go on either side of the room, the people who are playing the game and the people who are watching or not playing, they would have to act out like the monsters and the creatures attacking each other, like, just for fun. That's the kind of stuff that I did growing up, So
So
yeah.
so are you then the type that you're just enormously creative, and you have to have an outlet, because if you don't have an outlet, who knows what's going to
Yeah.
happen? Or, I'm not talking about like legal trouble or anything like that, but like you
Yeah.
got to have a creative outlet.
It has to be
I
something either creative or like some sort of sports outlet, like, yeah, something. And yeah, I'd have to have some sort of outlet. It doesn't necessarily have to be creative. Like sports was a great outlet for me as well. But the more
Mhm.
creative I can be, even when I play sports, I tend to try and be creative. I think that's just me because that's what is the most fun for me, seeing something that no one else has seen or done
Sure.
or that I haven't seen or done. I get a lot of satisfaction in, like,
Yeah.
pulling some of those things off, you know?
Before we get into pickleball, let's talk a little bit about like, you got to have a background in other racket sports, I
Yeah.
imagine,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So talk to me a little bit about that.
Mhm. I mean, growing up, I played table tennis with my dad in our basement. He had a little table, and, you know, it was always just after dinner, just playing with him, my brother, and some of my cousins, and even some of my friends in my neighborhood. Like, we would play a lot of table tennis. And then, I did transition into just playing tennis, and tennis was a big part of my life. I would say high school up until, like, college, not so much, like, in college a little bit, but then after college, that was my outlet, like, playing a lot of tennis. And then, I also delved into racquetball and squash,
Big into racket
you know
sports.
yeah, I'm just big into racquetball. I mean, like, I'm big into all sports, to be quite honest with you. A lot of soccer, a lot of, like, baseball and basketball growing up, but there was a point in time where, like, I stopped growing and, like, my friends just got really big, and I'm like, "Okay, you're not playing good basketball, you're just playing harder," and it's starting to get a little dangerous for me, you know? So, I was like, "Yeah, I
I
need to
know.
stop." Yeah, so I started playing more racket sports, less contact, but I still love, like, all the sports, But, yeah, a lot of it was racket sports. So I do have an affinity for just racket sports in general. When I was in Asia, I played a lot of badminton. I started I didn't start, but I would love to play more, paddle or padel. I played that for the first time, I think, like, last year, or maybe that
Okay.
was 2 years ago, and that was super fun. That's probably my most favorite out of all of them, right now,
Yeah.
at least. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think how I want to transition this. Okay. Let's go. Let's start talking about the beginning years of pickleball. So, if I understand correctly, um, one of the first times you played pickleball was during COVID at some point.
Mhm. Yep.
And your buddy had a setup in the driveway. Um, and I'm just like, what do you remember? What do you remember about that moment, about that time in the
Yeah.
world?
Um, so I've technically tried playing pickleball like one more time before COVID, but like my main memory is during COVID, I would say. It was with my uncle. We play a lot of tennis together, a lot of doubles tennis, and throughout town, everywhere we went, they locked up all the tennis courts you can get in, and eventually I got tired of climbing the fence and, like, unlocking the gate from the
Wow.
inside or whatnot, so he was like, "Will, just come over to my house," and he has a fairly large driveway, and he got a net, and he just, like, taped up some lines, and, yeah, he had a cookout, invited me and some of my other cousins over, and we were just messing around, thinking around, playing pickleball. I don't think the dimensions were right. I'm pretty sure the kitchen was, like, a foot, like, too short, you
Sure.
know? Yeah, because I was like, "Huh," and we didn't know all the rules. There was, like, no two-bounce rule, and we were just playing, but I had a lot of fun playing it, one paddle in my hand, beer in the other hand, just messing around. Um,
So,
yeah.
was it so I feel like tennis players that come into pickleball, they either do so reluctantly or because there's general, interest. It's kind of like it's a 50-50 thing. I played
Yeah.
high school tennis, um, and used to be obsessed with tennis.
Oh, yeah.
I Agassi was one of the guys I'd watch,
Yeah.
Sampras, and back in that era.
Mhm.
Um,
Same.
and so didn't know anything about pickleball way back then. But even then, recently, friends that I grew up playing tennis with had want nothing to do with pickleball.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm wondering what that first or second time where you played it, did it feel like a casual, experiment or something that just clicked automatically?
It it was definitely casual, but from the get-go, I loved it. Like, I really saw and, like, the differences and the uniqueness of pickleball because it was everything that I loved. It was everything that I loved about, in my opinion, high level tennis, right? Because look, I'm gonna be real with you. Most tennis players who say they play tennis, most of them suck. Like, hey, it's tennis is a hard sport.
I suck.
Tennis is a very hard sport, and most people are only trying like, most people struggle of executing shots, like, it's just stroke production from tennis, right? If you have better stroke production, you can get really far in tennis, but for me, tennis, I got to maybe, like, 4 or 5 plus levels in tennis. I played, like, USTA, Mid-Atlantic in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area, went to nationals once, went to sectionals, like, a couple times, so I was a fairly good high-level tennis player. But what's fun to me with tennis is once everybody has good stroke production, it's like, what plays can you do? It's
Yeah,
like the angles, baiting somebody to go one way and then tricking them going the other way. Like that was fun about tennis. And with pickleball, I felt like you got to that almost immediately, just because the execution, the stroke production, the technique was more forgiving and you didn't need that. It was like democratized, which is why I liked
sure.
pickleball so much. And then it just like my tennis style too, like, also transitions into pickleball fairly well. Some of my friends who played, tennis with me, it didn't transition for them nearly as much. A lot of them are like, heavy, aggressive baseline hitters.
Yeah,
They don't come to the net. It's like ground stroke, all stroke production, speed, power, which is, good in pickleball as well. But, I really like the angles. I like the cat and mouse, like that sort of thing. That's what's really
yeah,
fun to me. Yeah.
yeah. So it took me probably a good 4 to 6 months to work up the nerve to go to intro to pickleball course at my local Lifetime.
Oh, yeah?
And it was this mix of, well, it's an old people sport,
Uh-huh.
but then throughout this 6 month period, I noticed more and more people closer to my age, at my age, were playing.
Mhm.
And I happened to watch some of the more like intermediate style play, um, and an advanced level play at my local Lifetime, and thought this seems kind of fun. I want to do this.
Yeah.
And so I was hooked from that first just that first
Heck
lesson,
yeah.
and it wasn't until I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months later after I probably played every single day, 7 days a week, that, like, the strategy part of pickleball started to, like, reveal itself and
Mhm.
then make
Yeah.
more sense. It's like,
Yeah, you can be more
"Oh,
creative with it. Yeah.
yeah, you mean we don't wanna win points by brute force and from the baseline. We wanna work our way towards the kitchen and earn the points there." And so, like, and every day I seems like I learn something new about the strategic part of the game that just makes me more obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's what's cool
and so,
about it.
like
Yeah, because you don't need all that, you know?
like,
That's why it's different.
what was that moment for you when you realized, "I'm hooked"?
Oh, um, I think similar to you, I was already having fun playing with my uncle, and then at the time I was driving into, like, the next town over, and I saw these courts just packed, these outdoor there was, like, 8 or 12 of them, and I didn't know, I thought they were tennis courts at first, and then as I got closer, this is the first time I saw, like, dedicated pickleball courts, you know, and these are really nice in a, town in Virginia called Woodbridge, and, I stopped by, and I remember, like, seeing some good players play, and I was just kind of, like, walking around, like, just being curious, and then one of the ladies there asked if I wanted to play because they needed a 4th person. They're, "You know how to play?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think I know how to play. I have trouble, like, keeping track of the score, but yeah." But she's like, "That's alright," like, and I just remember, like, I just got smoked. I got dusted. I was like, "Dang, what just happened here?" You know? They were just, you know, doing shots like I haven't seen before, you know? And, they were, like, dinking a lot more. I was more trying to hit, like, volleys out of the air and hit angles, but they were, like, hitting, like, topspin rolls at me and stuff, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And after that, I was like, "Yep, I'm coming back." Like, I'm hooked, you
Yeah.
know? I need to come back. Yeah. I need to beat
Uh,
Nancy over here. Gosh, can't let her
beat
destroy me like that
Nancy
ever
over here.
again.
I was gonna say, like, I think I was one of the things that contributed to my obsession was the fact that when I first started out, I'm going with that. When I first started out,
Mhm.
uh, I could get, to use your word, dusted by 2 70-year-old ladies. And
Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest thing ever. That doesn't happen anymore. Well, depend, you know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's like, what other sport besides maybe golf could you
Mhm.
go play with, you know, people that are a generation
Mhm.
or 2 maybe, I don't know, ahead of you and have a competitive, at the time, fun and competitive
Mhm.
game. And so plus plus the other thing, Will, that hooked me was in most, not all situations, but in most, when I'd watch people play or I'd go to play, everybody's smiling and everybody's laughing and everybody's having a good
Yes.
time. And,
Yes.
like, that to me is one of the magical, it's gonna sound like a cult, I realize, but that's, like, one of the
Mhm.
magical things about this sport that's still active to this day, and one of the things that I seek out,
Nice.
like, I measure a game almost by the amount of fun I had. Like, being at the bread and butter nerdy tourney was an incredible amount of fun. Super well, I always put more pressure on myself than I should. Braden could
Yeah.
probably attest to that, but, um
You guys played
everybody had a
well.
blast. Everybody had a
Yeah,
blast.
everybody had a
Well,
blast.
thanks. Everybody had a blast. Everybody's laughing. Everybody's having fun. It's almost like it was a weekend long therapy session, and I'm
Mhm.
really grateful for that opportunity.
Same, same.
Um, so I think you're rated about 5.0 to 5.5
Yeah,
player.
I mean, right now, I think my current duper for doubles is, like, 4.98, 9.9, something like that. I've been as high as, like, I think a 5.2. Maybe
You're
a
up there.
5.3, I can't quite remember. Yeah, and then my singles, I haven't played a singles tournament, but I've been as high as, like 5.5, like, making
Okay.
5.49 in singles. Yeah.
So how did your mindset? How did your mindset shift once you started getting more competitive, or did it? Like, did you have
Yeah.
early goals, and how do they compare then to where you're at and what you're doing now?
Mm. Yeah, I had goals just to really get better just for the sake of getting better, you know? I was like, I wanna play tournaments and I wanna see, like, how far I can go, because for early on, like, I knew, like, I was pretty, like, talented at the game. The game just really came easy for me, and I just wanna get as good as I could get, and but really, though, like, the most fun was just figuring stuff out and creating different shots, whether they've been done before or not. Like, I know I talked about it when I was on the pod with Chris. Like, I talked about my shot called the Batman, which I do sometimes, but I really don't do anymore because it's a bad shot. But funny enough, right side Will does that shot more than anybody else. Like, he's
Oh,
just
I think I know what you're talking about, and he burned me on
yeah,
that once or twice. I'm
yeah, he
like,
just
"What in the
scoops you
world
down the
was that?"
line, and yeah,
I'll have to look
that's a
that up.
shot that I made. Yep, yep. I made a video about it. It's a pretty fun shot, like just for rec play. But yeah, I was really competitive at first. Went to all the tournaments back in like 2022, 2023. You know, but then after a while, I just didn't care anymore. I just wanted to have fun. You know,
Yeah.
I felt like I don't need to prove myself to anybody anymore. And I think part of that is because like, I had this series on my channel, like Pros vs. Joes, and I got to play. I'm very fortunate that I started pickleball early and I was able to play with some of the top level pros, and I've had rec games with them. And it's like, okay, I played with some of the best, like, players at the time, like, in the world. Like, well, why am I trying to get better? Am I going to become pro one day? I don't think so, you
Was that your
know?
goal? Did that ever enter your mind as a goal?
It did enter my mind a little bit, but also at the same time, like, I just knew I think I would have thought about it more and maybe pursued it more if I was maybe, like, 5 years younger at the time, or maybe I was, like, a foot taller. Like, not a foot taller, like, even if I was closer to, like, 5'10", like, closer to 6 foot, because it's just, like, it's such an uphill battle, you have to work so much harder, and my question was to myself, like, "Do I wanna work that much harder just to, like, get up there?" Because the the differences between, the level that you play at, 5.0 plus to like 5.5 to like competing, and not only just competing, but like
Mhm.
winning at pro level events, it's like a lot of work and the difference is very small. I talked to Jordan Briones about this and he's like, dude, it's like a 1%, not even like they missed the ball like 1% less. And it's like you have to drill that, you have to train for that. And now they're just, they're getting stronger, better. People are now training like it's like a real sport. And I'm like, nah, I can't be doing that. Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I don't want to do that. It becomes less fun, you know?
Do you notice that, um, uh, at least for me in my journey, when I first started playing, you're playing in this beginner pool of lots and
Hmm.
lots and lots of people.
Yes.
And then the more you improve, the narrower and narrower the narrower
Hmm.
and harder it
The
is to
pyramid gets.
find better games and better games and better games and better. So it's like when I went from, beginner to intermediate, the pool was still pretty large, and I'm not saying I'm all super high level and all that, but I have noticed that the pool of people that challenge me is just, it's harder to find those really, really good games.
Hmm.
Um, is that the same everywhere? Or
Yeah,
do you think like the
I would say it's the
pools
same.
are
Are
just
different?
different sizes? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it is. You nailed it right on the head. The pool are different sizes depending on where you're at, what city you're from, if you have like a highly competitive or just a large pool of players, at that level. And so, you have to be a little creative when you're playing, if you're playing with lower level players. People always say, it's like, "Oh, you can still get better when you're playing with lower level players." Like, why do people wanna play players that are better, right? So they can get better. But here's the thing,
Yeah.
people say that, and I'm just like, "Okay, why are they better?" Like, you can't tell me why they're better, then you're just playing just to play. You don't even know what you need to improve. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So when I moved to Tulsa, like there wasn't a huge pool of very good players. When I came here to Tulsa, I would argue I was like top top 10, top 15 here in
Wow.
Tulsa, like already.
Yeah.
You know, and it took a while. Now there's a good pool of pretty solid players here, and it takes time. But even then, when I was playing here, and I mean, obviously I was fortunate enough to like travel around, go compete, and I got to play with some good players. But I'm always asking myself like, what can I do to improve, even if I'm playing against lower level players? And I've talked about this before on the pod with Chris. I've talked to even I think with Doug on one of his shows for Bread and Butter. But it's like I called it. I just need to make a video about this. I called it the four hierarchies of pickleball, and it's just a
Okay.
framework. It's a framework of how I see pickleball, and it's not. I think everybody should have a framework, and it's not like the end all be all, and it's not perfect, but I think it's a good place to start. You can take it for what it is, right? So the four hierarchies goes like this. It goes perceiving and receiving, then it goes positioning, then shot selection, and then execution. The two in the middle, positioning and shot selection, those could technically be intertwined, but it goes in that order. So like first, you have to be able to like see the ball, like perceive the ball. Let's just
Yeah.
say you have the best forehand drive in the world from the baseline and maybe middle of the court, right? Well, if you can't see the ball coming at you, like if your opponent is hitting the ball so fast or with so much spin that you can't perceive it and see it, or let's just say you're blind,
Hmm.
it really doesn't matter if you have the best forehand drive in the world, right? And then next, it's positioning. Like you can have the best forehand drive in the world, but if you're on the left side of the court and the ball's hit to the right side of court,
Yeah.
like it doesn't do you any good. Or maybe in micro positioning, like, it's like hit to the left side of your body and you're trying to hit a forehand drive, like your positioning is off. So it doesn't really matter. Right.
Yeah.
And then it comes shot selection, right? Like you can have this forehand drive in the world, but they dink it or drop it really low into the kitchen. And you try to do a forehand drive is probably the incorrect shot selection choice to do, right? Now, when the first three hierarchies are met, then you have to be able to execute at a fairly consistent level, 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10. Because if you have the best forehand drive in the world, but you can only do it like 1 times out of 100, like it's essentially useless to you. You know what I'm saying?
So
So
how do you apply? Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
yeah. No, 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 no. Yeah, you'll go ask your question. Like, it was probably what I was
How do
gonna
you,
go into it.
yeah, I was going to ask, how do you apply that in the moment?
Yeah. So I always think about attacking the highest hierarchy, and depending on how good my opponent is, right? Just think about like, let's think about this. Let's go a scenario. What are the two strongest positions on a court for a doubles team? Just think about it. Tell me.
At the
Take a
kitchen.
guess. Yeah, at the two at the kitchen versus two at the baseline,
Yep.
right? Okay, so let's go through the hierarchies. Okay, so if let's just say you're at the baseline, two at the baseline, right? For the first hierarchy, perceiving, you actually have an advantage because you have time. There's distance, so you can see the ball coming at you for the most part, right? So that's
Yep.
met. Now positioning, you're in a weaker positioning, right? And maybe two at the kitchen is stronger, but you're not sure why. Well, here's the thing. If you're two at the baseline, right? The next becomes shot selection, which is the next in the hierarchy, right? If there's two in the baseline, I know that team only has access to essentially three shots. What are they?
Drive, a drop, and I don't know, a lob.
A lob. Those are the three. Most likely, it's probably not going to be a lob, but it could be a lob. And of course, like,
Yeah.
you have a forehand drive and a backhand drive. So it's like six, right? But it's essentially three. So I'm like, okay, it's most likely not going to be a lob. It could be, but it's going to be a drive or a drop, right? Now, if they're driving and you can handle their drives, because like they're attacking your highest hierarchy, if you are not afraid of their drive, right? And you're in a strong position, you at the kitchen line, you have access to so many more shot variety and shot selections. You have the drop volley, you have the regular volley, you can angle things, you can, hit it deep back. So as long as you can execute, which is the fourth hierarchy, you can execute at a fairly consistent level, two people at the kitchen line should win against two people at the baseline, right? Unless the people at the baseline have a crazy drive, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes they do. Because here's the thing, if you're from the baseline and you're, I don't know, James Ignatowicz or whoever, and you're hitting line drives, why is that successful? It's because if they have a crazy drive, they're attacking your highest hierarchy, which is perceiving and receiving. But if they can't attack that, right? Then what's the next hierarchy? Positioning, and you're in a weaker position, so you're gonna supposedly like lose, right? So when
That's
I'm
brilliant.
playing a game, yeah, I'm always thinking, okay, which hierarchy are they attacking me? What am I attacking them? So good players have control, and mastery over their own hierarchies. The great players, they manipulate their opponent's hierarchies. And that's
Yeah.
why like Ben Johns is so good. Like when I've hit and played and drilled against Ben, like dude, he's like he's manipulating me and like I don't even realize it sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a tough
It's
time
like
seeing his
chess, right?
ball.
He's playing a
Yeah.
few moves ahead.
Yeah, he knows where I'm gonna go. He knows the next position that I'm gonna be in. And he knows how to jam me up, and then he can execute those things. You get what I'm saying? So
Oh, goals.
when I play now, like when my style now is, I used to be very fast, drive. I'm pretty much a banger. Like I'm a high level banger who now can dink and drop, but because I was attacking the highest hierarchy. But when I started playing against better players, they're not afraid of the speed and like my drives anymore. I'm like, okay, what's the next thing I got to do? And now I play softer and I try to play by position, try to get to the kitchen line. It's more fun for me and it's more challenging, which is why I do that. And now, like, people are just faster than me. They have better hands than me. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to play this fast game because my perceiving receiving, like, that
Yeah.
hierarchy is lesser than theirs. So I don't want to play that game because I know I'm going to lose, or I have a feeling that I'm going to lose. Now it's still fairly good at my level, but I played enough good players where I'm like, yep, I'm not beating you in a hand battle. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fascinating. I need to look up
yeah.
that video. Maybe I'll link to that in the description if I can find it.
Well, I
I'll
I
find it.
haven't made that video yet.
Oh.
Yeah, it's actually been like in this huge idea list that I've had. I have so many ideas for videos. I just like have
Oh.
not gone around to it, but that's definitely one very high on my list to make that and like the progression of like pickleball levels. I talk about this with Jordan Briones quite a bit when I first got started and learning pickleball. Like when you're like 3-0 to 3-5, you don't need to learn how to dink. You need to learn how to serve. You need to learn how to return, drive, volley, and maybe counter. That's it. And when those don't work anymore, then you learn how to dink. And it goes into the hierarchies
Oh,
because
that's interesting.
serving, returning, driving, and like blocking or countering, those are things that attack the highest hierarchy, which is perceiving and receiving, because that's all you
Yeah.
need to win. Yeah. But once that doesn't
We,
work anymore, you need shot selection and you need positioning.
we need a pickleball cheat sheet to give people who are new that describes the skills that you should develop in the sequence that you should focus on them given the group that you're
Yeah.
playing in. That would have been super helpful to me as,
Yeah.
you get to this certain level
Mhm.
and you're struggling to break out of that level. Like you want
Mhm.
to, but for whatever
Yep.
reason
You don't have a
you don't have a
framework. That's what I'm
recipe. You don't have
saying.
a plan, a
You don't
framework. Yeah.
a
That
framework. Yeah.
that
I'm
you can use to okay, well, have I developed this? Am I as good as I think I could get it to check? Next one.
yeah.
You know, that would be
Yeah.
super helpful.
Exactly.
I
Yeah, look
would
at the look
I
at
might
the
pay for
framework.
that.
I guarantee you when you look at other the pickleball like YouTubers that focus on educational content, the best ones always focuses on like 1 to 3 or maybe all 4 hierarchies. Just think about it, just look at it. Those are the best videos because a lot of videos out there focus on just execution, but the like execution of a shot. But like I said, the execution is the last on the hierarchy list. Unless
Yeah.
you can see the ball, unless you know the positioning and like the environment, the situation, and the shot selection to do said shot, it's useless to you if you don't know when to apply it, right?
Yeah.
That's why like the when you watch like pickleball tutorials, and
Yeah.
when I watch pickleball tutorials, which I still do from time to time, I always try to see if there's something I can learn. I look at as okay, which hierarchy are they focusing on, and where can I add that into my framework? And maybe sometimes I'm I'm working on one hierarchy versus another. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's execution, sometimes it's positioning, and then I'll see where it fits in.
That's brilliant. Well, I could talk with you for another hour on that topic, but let me
Yeah, we could.
let's transition now. So let's talk gear and content. So,
Yeah.
um I understand that you messaged Chris Olson of Pickleball Studio or vice versa and then ended
Yeah.
up in Minneapolis or Minnesota,
Mhm. Mhm.
for a period of time. Um, like, just how did that happen? What made you do that? How did
Yeah.
this all come about? Because again, for the better part of a year, year and a half, you guys were that's who I watched, man. I just like what are these guys talking about that I need to be interested in? And so I'm
Yeah.
again super happy to be talking with you here, but I want to know how it all started.
Yeah. Chris and I started around the same time, I would say. I don't know who started first, but I know that when I first started, this was when the chainsaw serve was, which is now illegal, was
Yep.
very like controversial. And it was pretty popular, and I
In
learned
COVID.
it in COVID. Yeah, during COVID, I learned it by myself. I saw Zane do it, and I saw a video with oh my gosh, who's the OG who did it with the one hand? Why is his name?
Oh, I thought it was
Oh my
Zane, but
gosh. Nah, I mean Zane did the chainsaw serve, but like the spin serve, the one-handed spin serve, there was another pro, and wow, I it's slipping my mind right now. But anyways, I saw it and I was like, I have to learn how to do this. It's so cool. It was everything I loved about pickleball. It was like creative. It was different. You don't see that in other um uh, racket sports. So I
yep.
learned how to do it, and then I went to a tournament when I first moved to Oklahoma, and I was decimating people with it in like 4-0. Um, it was just so much fun.
That's
Like, for
awesome.
me, it was so much fun, and, the people in Oklahoma were just like, "Will, what is that? How do you do that?" And eventually, like, I made a video about it, and it was one of my first videos. Maybe it was like my 3rd video. My first, like, video where I felt like I was, quote, unquote, "Pickleball Will," I suppose you could say. And Chris made another video very shortly after it, like published, I feel like a couple days after mine. And I remember watching his, and his was also really good. And I was jobless at the time. I just moved to Oklahoma. I needed something to do. And I wanted to actually kind of get back into video because I used to do a lot of video work with my buddies, and I was doing a lot of like stunt and action stuff. But I transitioned into doing like photography, like doing like business events, corporate events, some weddings, like real estate, that things of that
Hmm.
nature. And I was like, okay, I need to like get back into video and learn some stuff. So I want to just like work with Chris because I saw his video was good, and kind of like a career development thing. So I just hit him up on
Sure.
Instagram. I was like, "Hey, man, you wanna do a collab?" Like, I try to make it as easy as possible for him. Like, if I come up there, he would show me some stuff, we'd play some pickleball, chat, and whatever, and I, like, spent money. I put, like, it on my credit card. I didn't have really any money, and I got an Airbnb for almost 2 weeks. It was pretty much 2 weeks and a rental car for, like, 2 weeks. Flew up there, and every day I would just, like, go to his apartment, and he would show me stuff like his editing techniques and stuff, how to be faster, and we would just play pickleball, talk about pickleball, and we honestly, like, vibed really well. He has no idea who I am or anything. Like, I could have been, like, crazy. Like,
Now,
when he
how
said
long
yes
ago was this? How long ago was this?
to 2022,
Okay,
2021? No,
3 years ago, 3,
2021.
4 years ago.
3, 4 years ago. 3, 4 years ago. It was so long. It's crazy to think about. But I actually think it was 2021. It might have been early 2022. I'll have to go back and see. But
Now, did
yeah.
Chris also have a channel back
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
on
Yep.
pickleball
I
in
think
about pickleball?
yeah, yeah. He had maybe 2,000 or 3,000 subs. I think I had like 400 at the time. If you look at the first time I challenged him, like how good, I think it's my video, like it's my still my favorite video till this day. It's how good is the pickleball studio. Chris Olson from the pickleball studio. It's our first ever one-on-one. And I spent like a week worth of editing on that video, but that's one of my favorite videos ever. It's just like how we met and stuff. It was just fun.
So at what point did it click that you guys could partner up and collab together?
Um, during the time I spent with him up there,
Okay.
we were just talking pickleball, everything related to pickleball, gear, like, like skills, how to get better, like pros, the PPA, just like absolutely everything. And we were talking about it so much, and I felt like it was like the conversations were just so good and so natural. And we have all the video gear and equipment. I'm like, dude, we should just record this and make a pod. And
Okay.
he wasn't sure. I would say he liked the idea. He was a little reluctant because it was, more work on his plate, to do, and it wasn't that much more work, I didn't think, but, like, when Chris does something, he does it with, like, to the utmost quality, so in his eyes, like, "Dude, this is gonna be so much work," and I'm like, "Dude, we're just pointing cameras at us, and we're just hitting record on the mic," but he's like, "No, you gotta set up this, you gotta set this, and these angles and all that." I'm like, "Alright." But we did it, and the first episode, the pilot episode is actually on my channel, on my YouTube channel, and then I was just like, "Chris, we just should just put it on your channel because, like, you have the larger subscriber count at the time." And, yeah, and then the rest is kind of history. We just put it on his channel, and then he kind of took ownership of it, and, yeah, just went with it, we went all out.
S
Most of it was him, I will say.
so,
Most of it was him.
this is fascinating to me. So, you both have channels on YouTube at the time that you're trying to establish,
Mhm.
and,
Well,
um
Chris
go
definitely
ahead.
had a goal and a mind for YouTube. Me, I still was not entirely sure. I did it for fun, you know? I didn't like, when I made the channel, it wasn't because I had this dream or aspiration to be some pickleball influencer or something like that. When Chris started his, I think he immediately knew because he saw, like, there was no paddle reviews in the space that he really liked, and we were trying to find, and me too, I saw that too. Um, uh, but when I first met him, he said it, and he accomplished it. He's like, "I wanna be the number 1 pickleball paddle reviewer." And I would say he succeeded at that, but that was his
Sure.
goal. Me, I wasn't quite so sure. I was thinking about maybe going back to school. Maybe I was like gonna try to continue doing like some real estate investing, and or maybe I get back into photography. I was just trying to
Okay.
figure things out. Pickleball and making the videos it was just more of a creative outlet. But then Chris kept on growing and started seeing success, and I was like, okay, like, I think I could do this too, And Chris didn't really push me, which is what I love about him. He's the type of person who kind of like inspired and like pulled me. He didn't push me. He's like, "Oh, well, you need to do this, this." He just did the thing. We would talk, and I would like be drawn to it, which is why like I highly respect and admire that guy, you know?
S so what, I'm gonna ask this, and I'm
Yeah.
not intending for this to be like, um, a controversial thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not asking details, but what I'm curious about, if you're willing to talk about, is when you guys are talking paddles, when you were
Uh-huh.
talking paddles, right?
Yeah.
And this new paddle, the Ruby comes out or whatever,
Mhm.
and it's talked about on there. Like, did you get any kind of compensation for the hype that you brought into it? Like, again, I don't want details and I don't want to stir up stuff, but like, you are two people who
Mhm.
have a following at the time, as
Yeah.
18 months ago, a
Yeah.
sizable following.
Yeah.
And like, something I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around is like the economics of it. Or did you just not care?
Yeah, part of it I
Does it
just did
make
not
sense what I'm
care.
asking?
I know exactly what you're saying because the pod is kind of ours, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
my logo, I think he still uses it. It's on the front of the pod. That's like the little caricatures, on the front of the pod. That's me and him, which his wife made, right? He didn't get a new one with
Oh, cool.
Isaac, it's me and him. There's the pink backwards hat. That's still me. Hopefully I stay on there forever, but I don't know. Maybe not.
It's part of the brand.
But yeah, it's part of the brand now. People see that, they hear the tune, the jingle, Um, and, at the time, no, like, we were, licensed to, like, be on Selkirk TV, and then he split that with me, and then any brand deal, which we didn't do very many, we did, like, one with, like, American Eagle, and we split that 50-50. But, like, yes, because it has the pod, like, on the show notes stuff, it's his code, his stuff, and so, like, he would get exposure, but no, it didn't. it didn't bother me, I just didn't care, my goal at the
Interesting.
time was just like, yo, I just want, like, I wanna spread my joy of pickleball, like,
Yeah.
out there, and if this is it, this is it, and then also, like, I didn't really mind it either just because near, like, 50% near the end of it, and honestly, like, for almost the entirety of when we were doing the pod together,
Mhm.
like, Chris was doing most of the work. He made it so easy for me. It was just like, "Alright, Sunday, day and time, pop up the camera, record," and then I would send it to him, and he would do the editing. I think now Isaac does the editing, so, like, you know, it's perfectly
Yeah.
fine. Like, if he gets affiliate sales from it, like, he did the work, it's on his channel, like, you know, I'm
Yeah.
there. I was happy enough to, I guess, just be a part of it and I guess solidify myself, right, as part of it, I really didn't care, like, that much at all, you know?
You seemed more like well, Chris seems more, I mean this with all due respect, but structured and analytical, and
Oh, definitely.
you seem to be more riff heavy and off the cuff. Like,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
just, like, genuine and authentic, which is, I think, part of the if not the biggest reason that I grew an affinity for, you guys and that podcast because it was, you knew that you weren't getting fed, um, any BS,
No.
if we were, you did a really good job of hiding it.
Of hiding it? Yeah. No, we were honestly both truly authentic to ourselves, which is the funny thing because, like, Chris is very much, structured and everything, but he riffs too. Like, you'd be surprised how much he riffs and goes off the cuff a little bit. We just lean one way or another, and we just, complemented each other very well with that. Yeah, we just had a good vibe and good chemistry. We are more similar than most people realize, and we're just like two sides of the same coin. And we kind of like knew the roles that we would kind of play on the pod, and our natural personalities just lean into that. But you know,
Yeah,
Chris will joke around
that's
too,
cool.
Yeah, like, he'll yeah. He's kinda savage sometimes. You guys don't realize it, but that man is savage sometimes with the jokes. You may not look at it, but he is. Once you get to know him, yeah, don't let that
He
guy
just seems
slide.
like a nice guy.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest or most random product a brand has ever sent you guys or just you?
The weirdest thing? Maybe the bird paddle. It looks like the chopping board. That's a pretty weird one, I would say. There's probably something else I just can't quite think, but I would say that's pretty weird. I really enjoyed, like, the pickle paddle, which is kind of like almost like a trainer paddle that's just, like, larger. Oh, okay, okay,
Oh, yeah,
okay.
that was a great one. Pickle, Pkoll.
Yeah, that one,
Yeah.
and then the big wood paddle.
I bought the Pickle one, if I'm saying it right,
Yeah, yeah,
because of
yeah.
what you said about it.
So yes, did you have fun with it? It's super fun. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
love that
had,
thing.
like, the pro where I played when I first got it, he's like, "You should keep playing with that because you play way better with that than you do with your Scorpius 2."
Too, yeah, no, that one's super fun, and I think the big wood is also super cool, which is like a wooden paddle, but it has like a honeycomb core made out of wood that he CNC'd, like, drilled holes out of, and,
Yeah.
like, they even got, like, me and Chris's faces laser etched, like, on the face, like, that was pretty cool.
Hang on a
Yeah.
sec. Hold on. I might have something like that. This is the most unique thing that I've ever been sent, and I have no idea where it came from. I'm gonna put it right here. I'm gonna put it right here on my desk so you guys can see this.
Oh.
You plug it in and it illuminates. It's supposed to be me playing pickleball with my signature, and that is legit my signature. And I don't know how they got it. And I'm holding a padel paddle, so you'll have to take a look at this when you
Okay, okay,
hop back
okay.
on here.
What am I
Like,
looking at? Whoa! That's pretty freaking cool.
I have no idea where this came from, Will, and it was about 4 or 5 months ago. Just showed up. Don't remember giving anybody. It's got my signature here. You can't really
That's so
see
dope.
that. I could zoom in on it. It is. It's really cool. Well, I'd love to say thank you to the person that sent it. I mean, that's the weirdest thing I've ever gotten. Um,
That's cooler than anything I think I've ever gotten. Shoot.
we'll put
Yeah.
it there. I don't want it to
Uh-huh.
focus, so I'm gonna move it. Um, the podcast chapter. I've got a theme in my outline to talk with you about here.
Yeah.
The show has a reputation for being brutally honest. You know, calling out paddle issues, shady
Yeah.
industry stuff,
Mhm. Mhm.
and review hype. Do you rather feel like um, a line was ever crossed, or did it ever lead did any of the things that you guys have said ever lead to awkward conversations with
Hmm.
founders or companies? And if there are, I'm just curious if you'd be willing to share a couple.
Hmm. I would say, at least for me, no. Um,
Okay.
uh, I know for Chris, there's probably been a few, but I won't go into it because that's his business, you know? Uh, because he's a little bit bigger
Sure.
and, like, he can get the ball rolling, whereas I feel like us paddle reviewers where maybe you, me, and, like, even Braden and some of the other guys where we capture demand, I think that Chris, and to some extent John,
Mm.
they can kinda create
They can generate it.
demand. They can generate it. We're just kind of capturing it. And I mean, maybe we can generate some of it, but, like, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, when Chris says something bad about something, it's kind of like, with great power comes great responsibility type of deal, you know? So,
Yep.
I know there have been probably some unhappy, you know, companies, with what has been said on the pod. And sometimes I know there's probably a lot more, but Chris just doesn't talk about it. It's something he probably just doesn't even tell me because I don't think it's worth me knowing or caring
Sure.
about it. And I think he also knows, like, if I hear it, like, I'm just not going to care. I'm like, well, whatever. It's our pod, our show. We can talk about whatever we want. You
So
know?
looking back, is there a moment though, or a favorite episode from that era that just stands out to you? Could be super, super positive, or maybe that just, something went haywire.
Ah, man. I don't know the exact episodes, right? I mean, obviously, the 100th episode, super positive.
Yep.
We're in person. Each time we're in person, I love it when we're in person. 100th episode, just because it was me, Chris, and Isaac. Chris just got the house, and it's just like we've come a long way. And of course, probably some of the beginning ones where the inside jokes started to happen. I think the 3-5 at best joke that just, like, I really tried to like cement that in, and I think I did a successful job. And then I don't know what happened about the true host of the Pickleball Studio. That inside joke is also hilarious to me.
So
I don't know when or how
I
that
don't
happened.
understand that one.
Okay, yeah,
I've heard it referenced. Maybe you could help me and
yeah.
a few others understand what that's in reference to.
So when we first started the pod, like, Chris would always do the introduction, right? And then he would start off as, "All right, I'm your host," and I was perfectly fine with that, right? But he would mess that up. There's a few times he would mess that up in the beginning. He's like, "I'm one of the co-hosts," and then when I come in, it's like, "Yep, and I'm your host." Like, he's supposed to say, like, he's the host, and he would mess that up. And he was like, and I was like, "You see, you subconsciously know that you're not even the true host of the show, even though it's called the Pickleball Studio Podcast." You
Sure.
know what I'm saying? And then I think I think people, just know that, I mean, it is our show, but it's become his show, and it is his show. It's on his channel and everything. Um, uh, but every single place that we go, um, people will be pointing at Chris like, "Oh my gosh, it's the co-host of the Pickleball Studio
Gotcha.
podcast." Or there'll be signs,
Okay.
like, Right Side
I
Wheel
didn't pick up
always
on
does
that.
this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like really small. Like, when I see somebody make that reference or that joke, like, I know, like, okay, you've been following us for a while. Like, you're a true fan. Like,
Sure.
Right Side Will, when I would go visit him in LA and we'd go to Whittier Narrows where at Pickle where he, like, has those crazy socials on Friday night, he would have a sign outside. And he's like, "Hey, welcome Pickleball Will, the host of the Pickleball Studio podcast." That's what I would say on the sign, and it's just, I don't know. It's just an inside
Right
joke, and it's
side
just funny
will,
to me.
man. That guy
Yeah.
has a terrifying two-hand backhand.
Yes.
Good
Right Side
lord.
Will. I'm so glad he won that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, so, um, you stepped away from the podcast
Yeah.
probably about a year ago now, maybe a
Mhm,
little
mhm.
under.
Yep.
Like, was it about
Why?
time? Like
Yeah. It
you were a staple
Yep.
in lots of households who are looking forward to talking pickleball or listening about to pickleball pods and
Yeah.
YouTube for week after week after week after week after week, and then suddenly no more will.
Boom.
So like,
Yeah.
what happened?
It was well, part of it was I was gonna take a break anyways because I was gonna be, like, gone for a month in Cambodia. I linked up with, Lavi, the owner of ADV, and he got, yeah, those bags right there. Yeah,
Brought
he's a
to you
good
by
buddy of mine.
ADV Tennis, the best
Yep,
pickleball backpack in all
it
of
is.
pickleball.
Yep, yep. And he asked me if I wanted to
Back to love.
go, yeah, support the Cambodian Davis Cup team, and I thought that was just such a cool opportunity. So I took a month-long hiatus, partly because of that, and then it just kind of extended because at the time I was kind of reevaluating my me in pickleball. Like, what do I want out of the pickleball space?
Sure.
Like, what is and who is Pickleball Will, which we'll probably transition and get into more later, like on this talk right here in this conversation. And I was just kind
Yep.
of getting burned out, doing pickleball. It's like talking pickleball, and I just was tired of talking about gear. I wanted to do something more, I guess, local and community driven, and I was just
Yep.
exploring other options and what I wanted to do, asking myself those questions. And that's why like I took a break from YouTube and from the pod as well as I'm trying to figure that out.
Now, was this right around the time when you had released, or you how do we say it? Like co-branded a paddle with 6-0? Was this right around that time, or
It was
was
shortly
that before?
after.
It was after.
It
Okay.
was it was shortly after. I think the I forgot when the co-brand with 6-0 was. I felt like that was like April, May, and then I went to Cambodia like in July, I
Okay.
feel like, in the summer, you know? And yeah, I think and then like uh, I was still doing the pod. I was still kind of making videos, and even before the co-release with 6-0, I was like working a little bit too with like Selkirk. I was
Okay.
first a contractor with them, and then I was fully employed by them. And this is me, like, in my exploratory phase, like, I'm trying everything, you know? I'm doing the pod, I'm doing reviews on my own channel, I'm working for a major pickleball brand,
What were
I'm
you doing
starting
for
to
Selkirk?
um, so before I was making training videos for internal use to,
Okay.
like, train their customer service team on, like, how to talk
Oh.
about paddles and how to differentiate their line and, what's good for what, and there were basically internal training videos, but they liked it so much, and they liked the idea of it so much that, they decided to bring me on board, like, full time and
Hmm.
started, like, Selkirk University. I don't know if they're still going with that.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
uh yeah, and maybe they would transition me into, like, Pickleball Playbook, which I think is now done by oh my gosh, wasn't is his name Austin, who does Pickleball
Yeah, I think
Playbook?
it's Austin.
It's Austin.
That's a Selkirk
Um,
thing?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
You
that.
didn't yeah, no, dude, you guys have no idea, like, I love Selkirk, and if you started pickleball and you looked at how to play pickleball, there's this old video that's, like, 13 years, like, old or something like 13, 15 years old, like, way back when the first one, and it was very well done. It's, like, 2 minutes long. It's under something completely different, but that is a video produced by Selkirk. Like, like, Selkirk is
Wow.
deep in it. It has been trying to promote the sport, and I have only, like, good things to say about the Selkirk team and the company, like, yeah.
Yeah. So you had lots of irons in the fire, so to speak. Like, you're trying to figure out what you want to do. Is it
Yeah,
being a
what
co-host of
w
a podcast? Is it doing
Mhm.
paddle reviews? Is it creating content for Selkirk? Is it co-branding products in the pickleball
Yes.
space? You
I was
know,
trying it all, exactly, trying to see what would stick and what I liked and how
yeah,
I could monetize and make money, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Because I knew I didn't wanna do paddle reviews forever as much as I love gear, but I was like, "This is not what I wanna do." And during that time, during that year I took off, I was asking myself, like I said, "What do I want my relationship with pickleball, to be, and what do I want out of it, and what
mhm,
do I wanna, like, give back?" You know, those are questions I'm asking myself, and because my relationship with pickleball was honestly going a little sour around that time, I think because of more personal things, because
mm,
after the Cambodia trip, I stopped traveling, and I was like, "I wanna do something for my community," just because, like, making YouTube videos here
yep,
by myself, it gets lonely, and I was like, "Okay, I wanna do something for my community." That's why I started trying to run leagues and, doing events and tournaments and things like that, you know, just delving into that, seeing what that would be like, you know, and I thought I would like it more just 'cause I'm like, giving back to my community, you know, and I'm seeing people because there's people in my community here that, at the time, heard about me, but have never played with me, never met me, they just knew, like, I lived here in Tulsa, but I'd be traveling around, so I was like, "I wanna change that a little bit, like, let's be more involved here in my local community," you know?
What about
Um,
Tulsa
yeah.
makes it feel like your home base? Like, you've chosen to stay in Tulsa, so, why there?
That
And how
Mhm.
is that shaping your, pickleball experience? Because you could live anywhere with the platform that you've built and do this anywhere.
Yeah.
So why Tulsa?
Well, a big part of it is, like, I just kind of got comfortable here, and then another big part is, like, even if I wanted to go somewhere else, it is hard for me right now. I'm technically not in, like, a financial place to, like, pick up, move all the costs and everything, and it's like and the cost of living here affords me to because it's low, affords me to take risks, right? It allows me to take
Gotcha.
risks, and if it doesn't work out, I know I can, like, survive here and bounce back. You get what I'm saying? Like, if I
Yeah.
were to move to a more expensive place, you know, like, even if I thought about, like, going to, like, even Texas, like Dallas, Austin, but the cost of living there is higher. Like, I'll guarantee you this right now, like, if I was still living in DC or in, like, Northern Virginia, and if I wasn't living with my parents, like, Pickleball Will probably would have never happened. Like, it's just too expensive. Like, I wouldn't have been
Wow.
able to, like, comfortably be like, "Okay, let's, take this one-off flight to Minneapolis to meet this guy I don't know to see where it goes." Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I wouldn't have done that. I would have been way, like, too scared to, like, not have been able to bounce back, you know?
Yeah.
So, that's part of the reason is, like, the cost of living. Have I thought about going to other places? Yes, but also at the same time, like, it's been cool watching the community here grow from, like, pretty much, like, 4 public courts here when I first got here. It was, like, 4 public courts and maybe, like, a few indoor churches and whatnot, and now we have, like, 3 facilities. We have, like, 6, like, public courts, and it's growing here. It's really cool to see,
Yeah.
and I'm, like, a part of it, you know? That's
What's
what's
your
really
role
cool.
in that? What's your role in that? And how are you doing it? How are you working with the community to I'll just call it spread the joy of pickleball?
Oh, I mean, I kinda helped, um, uh, make the pitch deck for the first facility that was built here, you know? That's, like, number 1, I would say, and then, I was helping with a few, like, small, like, camps and clinics
Mhm.
and, like, kids camps and stuff when they were doing at, La Fortune Tennis Center, which was just a tennis center that some people would line up and play pickleball there. Um, and then now, I mean, I just work over at the Diet and Pickleball Complex here in Tulsa as a coach and somewhat of an organizer. I
Wow.
run some of the leagues and stuff there. That's kind of what I do. Like that is probably what I say is my um, uh, what you call it, position that I do here, and the main things
Yeah.
that I do here. Yeah, and I still go to the public courts and play with people. And I also like help out spreading the word of a local shop here as well that sells paddles and equipment, just all those
Yeah.
little small
You
things.
you're just
Yeah.
involved. You wanna be involved, and I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah.
the something I picked up from you, at the nerdy tourney is you're genuinely, interested in, um, growing the sport, and growing the fun
Yeah.
part of the sport maybe is a better
The
way to
fun part,
put it.
yes, the fun part of the sport because that's I mean, that's what's cool about pickleball, man. It's the people you meet, you know? It's
Yeah,
it's always been like that for me because I wouldn't have met there's some interesting people, which we can go into later. I met some really cool, interesting people from pickleball, which I feel like I would not have met otherwise, and they all have cool stories to tell, and, like, I don't know if I would have met some of these people otherwise, you know what I'm
sure.
saying?
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of pickleball.
Has there been any moments where in your entire journey so far, this 3 or 4
Mhm,
years, where you've been like you're seriously questioning the grind, trying to make a living in this pickleball space? Whether
mhm,
it's the content thing and it being sustainable or working at the diadem facility or just evangelizing the sport.
mhm.
Um, have you questioned it? Or maybe it's, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but in the other side of the spectrum, it could be no, it fuels you.
Mm. No, definitely have question I mean, both sides. It's questioned me and it's also fueled me, right? I question it just because, there's some months, like, I make out pretty well, and there's some months I'm like, "Man, I don't know if I can pay my mortgage," you know?
Mm.
I'm not so sure, and during that time I took the hiatus, I think what really made me question, like, what I want out of pickleball is because during my time as I'm starting to do pickleball, I had a longtime girlfriend that I broke up with, and she supported my pickleball journey, and we were becoming different people, but I was gung ho going into pickleball. But also part of the reason why we broke up was because, like, I was gung ho about pickleball, but, like, I wasn't able to really process
Oh,
that because I was traveling a lot, and the dopamine hits of traveling and meeting new people and making the videos was, like, covering that up, and then finally, when I was able to, like, sit down and think about it, you know, I was like, "Hmm." Like, I was starting to build this almost negative association with pickleball a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like, could have
yeah,
things been different, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Um, uh, so, um, I'm now, like, reassessing, like, what I want out of pickleball, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And so
And
sometimes it fuels me, sometimes it doesn't, it's either or, depends on the day. But sometimes it really fuels me, like, the nerdy tourney definitely fueled
yeah,
me for sure.
yeah. So, at the nerdy tourney, you handed me this paddle. Let me get that in the
Yes.
camera view right there. A paddle from my city pickleball. And
Yes.
so what's the vision behind this? Is it a side project or is it something
It's a
that you're
s
hoping to turn into a brand for yourself?
Yeah, it is both. It is something that I hope to turn into more of like a lifestyle brand. Um, uh, and it's a culmination. It's basically an answer to my question of my relationship with pickleball. So that My City PB project is a collaboration between me and a good buddy of mine who would like to remain in the shadows, but he is and his team own the local shop here in Tulsa. That like the
Okay.
first and the only pickleball like equipment shop, right? And he's also a very community driven person. And my idea first didn't even come from making a paddle. The first idea I had was to make a hoodie. And
Okay.
the thing is here in Tulsa is that we have a growing community, but it's not perfect. There are, you know, some problems here and there. And when the facility got opened up here, there's two other facilities opening up, and, our community can become divided. And I really didn't really like that, and I think that's like most places, like, that's bound to happen. So I was inspired during minor league nationals, which I went to in St. Louis, and the director of that tournament is my friend who lives here in Tulsa. Her name is Caroline Lau. She did a great job, and everybody like Tulsa came in full force. I saw different ages, different divisions, and we are just having a good time, and we were like together. And I really wanted to like capture that vibe, that camaraderie almost. And so my idea was to have like a shirt, and on the back of the shirt, which is like what I'm actually wearing right now, is there's like a map on the back of this shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but like
Nice. Yeah.
it's just like it's just like a map of Tulsa and like basically like it's a map of Tulsa and it's all the places you can play pickleball, whether it's public courts or indoor facilities. So when you wear this shirt or like a hoodie, it's like you go to a tournament, you're like, oh, you're a player from Tulsa, like, you know? And then that
Gotcha.
conversation led to like making hats, making other gear, and then making a paddle. And the paddle was like, let's just have a
Mhm.
paddle for that city, you know? And I obviously have had a lot of experiences traveling and I met a lot of really cool people and heard a lot of cool stories. And so right now I've created a paddle with it's the same paddle, just a different design for each city. And right now the
Yeah.
cities that I have are the ones that I have a personal emotional connection with. And um I want to eventually like tell the story of that city and my experience in that city through pickleball, like, because it's not, like, on and off the court, like, you know, you can have moments on the court, but sometimes it's meeting somebody and having drinks or dinner
Yeah.
afterwards, and
Yeah.
I made a lot of friends, like, you know, and so that's why I kind of made it, and I think I don't know how I'm gonna do this, I have a lot of ideas, but eventually I wanna, like, do something where maybe if you buy the paddle, maybe you open the box, there's a website or a code or something, and like you can go to it and you can tell your story of like pickleball and your city. Like maybe, you know, you had a time when you won a tournament or maybe you met like your new best friend. I don't know. Like there's so many cool stories out there. Like I met somebody who came into town from New York. I didn't know this. He was on a traveling show. His name is Jake Levi, and Wicked was in town. I didn't realize it, but he is plays in that Broadway show,
Oh, wow.
and he invited me to go see the show, and I didn't realize that he was part of the main ensemble. He was one of like the main male actors, and he invited me backstage. You know, we had dinner and stuff, and we just got to chat and we're talking pickle, and like that's so cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that that is what like my city's about, you know? Like you go in places, you get to play pickleball and meet interesting people, like and you get to like have fun on and off the court. And each time like that's what I want the brand to kind of represent. Like each time you're playing with this paddle or you're rocking the
Yeah.
gear or something like is to remind you like that fun times you had about with pickleball, like, you know, when you just meet people for the first time that you normally wouldn't talk to, right? Because like you
Yeah.
said, you have people from different backgrounds, different ages coming together and playing, you know? And yeah.
So is your goal for this to turn more into, um, let's call it, hardcore paddle development? Or were you looking for a good frame to put the story,
Yeah.
that's on this surface, you could share it with others? I'm trying to understand,
Mhm.
like, as you're formulating My City Pickleball with your
Mhm.
with that the guy you mentioned,
Yeah. With
um,
my team, my
is this
partners. Yep.
something your partners, is this something where you envision it's a online only thing, or are you thinking that, like, this could be part of pickleball facilities, or this could be a product that is sold in pickleball facilities and, as an homage, so to speak,
Mhm.
to, your city, and the memories that, pickleball has afforded you.
Yeah. Right now, it's mostly online, and then it's here at my local store, sold here. But yeah, I am wanting it to be in stores in said city. I'm actually, I, I have kind of like a deal going on that, and I think the first like kind of facility it might be at might be one in Houston. I know some good people down there from OMFG Pickleball.
Mhm.
Her name is Jen, and her husband's name is Richard, and they just opened up a spot. Like, and they're like the kind of people I want to help support because they built two pickleball courts in their backyard, and they were just hosting backyard tournaments and leagues in their backyard, and it was grassroots, and then finally they got enough money, and then they, like, rented out a space in, like, a mall, and they converted it, and now they have I think it's 6 courts down there, and I was like, "That's so cool." Like,
Wow.
that's a story I wanna tell from your backyard to, like, a place, and they were just really community driven, so, like, I'm gonna go down there, and I made, like, the colorways, like, kind of, like, close to their brands, and, yeah, like,
On
that's
on
just a
this
cool story to
on
tell.
this frame.
Yep.
You're saying
On that
okay.
paddle, yeah, it's just like a Houston kind of color and design. Yep. Yeah, the governor.
That's pretty cool, man. Like I see there's a few facilities around me, Will, that got their own branded paddles and they're pretty bad.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um this is a Gen 3 paddle,
It's a
correct me if
Gen
I'm
3
wrong here,
paddle. Yep.
that
It's a dual edge foam. Yep.
plays pretty well.
It's yeah.
Plays pretty well, and it's
Y
got a cool design, and there's meaning behind it, though. I think where there's a meaning and where there's purpose behind something, people gravitate towards that stuff. I'm still
yeah,
trying to,
yeah.
like, understand the connection of, like, or rather the vision, you know?
Yeah, like, I mean
I'm picking it up from you. It's just
mhm.
sorry, it's not clear to me yet.
Yeah, I know, and that's gonna take time as I talk about it more and market it more, but, like, just
Sure.
imagine this, once, like, the design and, like, the brand is a little bit more established, just imagine you go to a new city. Like, when people travel, right? I bet you now
Yep.
when you travel, you probably put in your pickleball pal just in case, like, "You know what? Maybe I'll go to a local park,
Yeah.
or I'll find a game," right?
Yep.
And that's another side of the My City PB project that I will talk about in a bit.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying?
interesting.
Okay, so I'll
Yeah.
I'll I'll tell you now. So me and my team, we've built like a database and we're still building it out right now. So it's just a web app right now. But when you go to a city, you put in a zip code, it will show you all the public parks and the indoor pickleball facilities. And I think the only other company that kind of does that is like Pickleheads, right?
Yeah, and it's
But it's
okay. It
yeah, exactly,
no
right? So
offense,
I think
pickleheads. It's okay, though.
yeah, I think it could be better, right?
Yep.
And I want to expand it over to like worldwide because I've been traveling in Asia and stuff too. And when you travel out there, you want to know where are the places you can go play, right? So
Yes.
imagine this: you go to a place, and I thought about this because like I know me, I'm very fortunate because of who I am, and I started pickleball very early on. When I can me and Chris like we can put up an Instagram post like, hey, I'm in town, said town, I'm looking for some games. People will DM us like, hey, come here at this time, you can play here. But that is not something that just anybody can kind of do, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, how can people also kind of get a similar experience and meet new people and vibe? So I'm creating this database, right? So you can search for courts, at the very least, know where there are, right? And go there. Maybe there's more information in the future. But then imagine you go to a court, right? You're playing with one of my paddles, or it can be any paddle, honestly. But you're playing with my one of my paddles, and you know it's like a My City paddle, but it's like, oh hey, you're from Tulsa, you're from DC, and maybe you see somebody else who's playing with the My City paddle. Maybe they're not even from the town you're at, but maybe they're from a different city, right? And they're playing with that paddle too. It's like, oh hey, you're from where? Like you're from Minneapolis, and I'm from DC, but we were playing in Arizona, and then that is like an icebreaker, almost a conversation starter for you to make friends. Maybe it's like more easy for you to approach somebody. It's like, hey man, you want to get a
Yeah,
game
dude.
in? You get what I'm
You're
saying?
yeah, you're I'm totally aligned with that. That makes a ton of sense. I was listening to a podcast, I think it was like the 40 to Pro podcast, probably
Mm-hmm.
that last year this time. And those guys were talking about something that I've been thinking about for a long time as well, and you're talking about it now too, which
Mm-hmm.
is how do you bring people together or let
Yes.
them how do you not or, but A, how do you bring people together? B, maybe B is first, so in no particular order, how do you help people discover games and other people with shared interests and maybe, at the same levels? I don't know.
Yeah.
So one of
Yeah.
the
No.
challenges that I think still exists throughout all of pickleball everywhere is just trying to find games. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like,
Trying to find the kind of games that you
there
want, that you might want.
yeah, yeah, like, so my local Lifetime has a group message
Mm-hmm.
in iMessage or Messages, whatever it's called now, and if you work your way in there, then you'll know where people are playing. Well, then I'm part of another group that uses GroupMe, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're in that group, you're gonna know where everybody's playing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was thinking and tell me if we're kind of on the same page here, but I was thinking that Well, gosh, well, Discord is free and it's a pretty cool tool. So why not create a Discord server for the purposes of connecting people? So, people who are in the metro area of the Twin Cities where,
Mhm.
Chris and I and a few others live, could just pop in there and maybe even drill down into channels as cities to get, e- uh, to discover where people are playing. But it's like you got this chicken or egg problem then. It's like
Yes.
you can lay out the perfect architecture for this stuff, but if nobody's using it, then that's the
Yes.
hard part. That's the hard part. But like I completely know I think I'm picking up what you're putting down, which is if
Yes.
I was to go to Tulsa and I didn't know you, and I want to find some good games, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to get on Google and I'm going to try to
Yep.
find, courts near me.
Courts.
I'm probably not going to be able to, connect with somebody that could, remotely get me connected to a good game or a good,
Mhm.
court. So it's just going to be by sheer luck. And also know what you're talking about in the sense that I don't have the following like on Instagram that you guys do, but I was just in Kansas City for
Mm.
our son's baseball
So
tournament and giving some paddles away and stuff like that. But I, posted a few times in a story like, "Hey, I really want to play today. Where can I go?" And like I got 6 DMs in 30 minutes. Not everybody has that. And those games
Mhm.
were super super fun and I met some very very cool and fun people. But
Yeah.
for those going to a new city, they have
Yeah.
there's no way
Y
to find a good game because you're not going to
yeah.
get into that group message chat. You're not going to get into group me and
Mhm.
good luck discovering anything else. So is that one of the intents behind My City Pickleball? It's like to help people discover more pickleball, more
Yes.
people like them.
Yes. Yep, in both sides of the spectrum, like, from the online perspective, like you said, Discord or Facebook groups or, and then you have more intimate settings, so it's like 3 sections, right? So on one side, it's like the broad forums, like I said, Facebook groups, Discord, that sort of thing, right? And then on the far side of that is like the random spectrum. You just show up to a court, maybe something happens, right? And then in the middle of that, you have like
Yes.
the group me's, the chat groups and stuff like that. But you need to kind of be in social media. Like you kind of have to be plugged in a little bit, right?
You got to
So
be invited.
what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do is work on the 2 extremes, right? So the My City PB database, at least like where the courts are. Like most of the times when I go to a place, I Google pickleball courts on Google Maps and I see what pops up, and I just randomly will pop at that court at some time to see what happens.
Yeah.
And then if I go, it's like I'm a fairly like I would say I can be pretty like extroverted and like I can go up to people and hey, when you want to get a game, but like that's also kind of nerve wracking for some people. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody can do that. And so like the thing is like if I'm playing with my paddle, like a My City paddle, which is like more than like say like a Selkirk or Yola or whatever, it's like I want the brand to represent that like community and that welcoming kind of part aspect of pickleball. So it's like if you see somebody who rocks out, maybe they just like because it's a good paddle. But then it's like if you're rocking that paddle because you are back like what that brand represents, you might be more inclined to go ask that person, like, hey, like I'm looking for a good game. Will you help me out or something? And then
Yeah.
hopefully if you stand behind what I'm trying to represent with this brand, like you would help that person. Because I know if I was that person, somebody approached me, I'm like, yeah, I'll get you plugged in. Like, let's hop in a game together and one just like how it was in like what I call like the renaissance, like the golden era of pickleball, which was like
Yeah.
during the COVID times. Like it just felt like every like during that time, it did not matter what kind of paddle you had. If you saw somebody with a paddle in their bag, even in another pickleball court, you bet, yo, you play pickleball? When do you play? Where do you play? And like, yo, I play this time. Come here at this time. Like, we'll get some games in. Like, it'll be fun. Like, and I want that again. But now you get less of that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
That's
it's
awesome, Will.
become elitist, And so I'm not sure how I'm gonna do that with my brand as I'm building this, but I know that's what I'm gonna do, and whether I succeed or fail, uh, I just know, like, I don't really care. Like, I'm doing this, like I said, like, no regrets. You know what I mean? I'm just doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's that's awesome. The vision now it makes sense
Yeah.
to me. And like I have a small group of people that I play with locally here and
Uh-huh.
have a ton of fun with. And
Yeah.
I've told them this that it is genuine therapy for me.
Mhm.
Like if I didn't have that once or twice a week, I'd probably lose my mind. It
Yeah.
just is such an outlet because for 2 straight hours, we're playing highly competitive games, challenging games, heart rates are up, and we're laughing the entire time.
Yeah.
And,
That's what I
if I
want
could
people to feel
fill
all the time. Yeah.
yeah, if I could fill another day or 2, like, I don't wanna ask my friends to play more because I don't want them to get sick of me,
Mhm.
frankly. So if I could, get connected to a broader group of people, of like-minded people that want to have fun, but also want to compete, right?
Yeah.
That's that's hard. That's a hard connection to make because unless you know somebody, and like to think that I know a lot of people around here, but still not enough to get connected to those to other people like those friends. Not,
Mhm.
not I don't want to replace them. I just
Yeah.
want more.
More. You
You
just want
know?
more. I mean, here's the thing. Everybody wants more, but also sometimes you have to be that person who starts the group as well. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you have to be that person, right? You're not getting invited to the group or whatever, but sometimes you just got to build that group, like build the group that you want to be. And that's kind of like what I want, like the
Yes.
brand to be too. Like, those people who are like creates like the web and the community, right? That's what I want my kind of like, that's what I want my city PB to kind of feel like and represent more of. And then also to like also hang out and just share stories like outside, like off the court as well. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, so I always talk about him, like my friend, his name is Jameson, who I met here as I was teaching pickleball here more. I don't think I would have met him if I hadn't taught pickleball, right? And changed and like switched what I was doing in pickleball. But I found out very recently, and we became good friends, that he is a recovering um, alcoholic. He's been sober for the past 2 years. He told me that he lost his fiance and then he lost custody of his daughter. And he's been sober for two
Oh,
years, so he got custody of his daughter back. And now he is certified to help other people who have drug abuse problems. And he uses pickleball as part of his recovery program. And so I'm like, dude, I love that. Like, that's such a cool story. Like, I want him to represent like the city and represent pickleball, you know what I'm saying? So, like,
yeah.
I donate him paddles and I give him stuff, and that's a story that's, like, worth telling, and there's so many people out there like that, like, I met so many people like that, and that's what's kind of inspired me to do this brand, like, I mean, Eric Ho from NYC Pickleball, man, that when New York City had no indoor facilities, this man was lugging, like, 5 to, like, 15 temp nets around, taping up, like, parks and basketball courts and running leagues that people would travel, like, 45 minutes to an hour to come do, and, like, he created a community there, you know what I'm saying? And then, like, Right Side
Wow.
Will over in LA, Pickle, like, he has, like, 400, 500 people coming through his facility at night. People are karaokeing, like, while they're waiting for games on the court. Like, people sometimes sleep over there. Like, I've slept over there because I stayed there so late. Like, like, there's people out there doing that sort of thing, and, like,
Wow.
it's it's the coolest thing. It's honestly the coolest thing about pickleball, and that's what I like about pickleball the most, like, the community and, like, the vibes, you know what I'm saying? And,
And
yeah,
that
that's why I'm
that
doing what I'm
radiates from
doing.
you. That radiates from
Yeah.
you, Will. Like I like again, I like I can tell that your heart is in the place of like trying to give back, trying to
Yeah.
expose others to um this I'm going to use the word joy that you
Yeah.
found. Maybe purpose is a better word, purpose that you
Yeah,
found
yeah.
in pickleball.
Mhm.
Um and it just shows and you can feel it just in the few minutes that I got to talk with you, the nerdy tourney and the hour, almost 2 hours here.
Yeah.
It I I wish you nothing but success, and like I want to help. As soon as you figure out a way to bring that up here, you know,
Yeah, I got you, man. No, I
I'm
appreciate you.
definitely
You're
signed up
helping
to help.
already. Just talking with me right here and just like, you're honestly the first person I've talked to on like an official channel about it. Like I haven't even talked about it on my own channel. Like real talk. Like you're
Oh
literally
wow,
the first person I'm talking about this project um like nowhere else, and you've gotten a deeper dive into it than anybody else um uh has gotten. So I mean, thanks for reaching
that's
out,
cool. Well, thank you for
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that. Is there
Yeah,
anything else
dude.
you want to talk about in My City Pickleball?
Oh man. I mean, I'm really just thinking my team, like when I talked about this, I have a lot of ideas. I'm definitely an idea man, like a creative man, but like I don't always have the discipline or the gusto to like make things happen, which is why,
You're not an
you know,
executor. You're the big
I'm
picture
not an
guy.
executor. That's why I love Chris because he always executes. We joke about it too. He's like, Will, you have a lot of ideas, but when it comes time to it, I'm the one getting it started. I was like, I plug in there, I help out. He's like, you do, but the heavy lifting, who does that? And I'm like, Isaac. of But big thanks to, you know, my team. Like I wouldn't have been able to do it like without them, but like I told him all this vision I had, and he's helping me, and his team is helping me execute it because he believes in me and my vision, and I'm just like
Nice.
super grateful that he does, because I wouldn't have been able to do it like without him. Like, just getting the paddles, overseas, that side of the business, and obviously, like, the cost of, uh, doing, like, paddles getting submitted and all that, like, I couldn't have done
Yeah.
that, you know, uh, by myself, and then I think he just sees, like, the work I put in for the community, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, Will really is about it," so, like, having somebody see that,
Yeah.
and, like, helping me out, like, that's super awesome, and like I said, like, I I feel like it can be more. I'm just not sure how, but I'm not I'm not trying to like think about it all too much. I'm just going for it. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
doing it. And my plan
I,
maybe is to like eventually travel to different cities because I like traveling. That's part of what I do. I like exploring different cities, meeting new people, and like getting food. So, like through pickleball. So, maybe when I open up to different cities, I'll travel to that city, explore around, use the
yeah.
app, figure out what course to go to. Maybe I'll meet some people. Maybe that's how I'll launch new paddles and new designs. But I really want this to be kind of like a conduit for me to also give back. Like I've had ideas of maybe I would commission local artists in that city to like design a version of it, and then the proceeds will go back to them or whatever charity or something like that. Or even like my buddy Jameson, who has his drug recovery program. Maybe I make a certain one for him, and some of the proceeds I can like donate to his cause. Like I don't know how,
Yeah.
but like those are ideas that are always floating in the back of my mind to like be able to like kind of give back, you know?
You did the hardest thing, which is, um, you know, whether you're starting a business or building a new product, the hardest thing is just to start, just to do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and then, like, I love hearing about all the ideas you have because what that says to me on the development side of things is you're thinking about um, building incremental value. And the more you do that over time, like the bigger this thing will get. And you don't have to have it all figured out right now.
Yeah.
I did the whole business school thing. Like
Mhm.
don't listen to the bean counters. Just solve a problem. Solve a
Yeah.
problem, and it sounds like you're doing that. Solve it in the most elegant way possible, and a little bit at a time, and that compounds over
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Um, I'm excited to see, where you take this. Well,
Yeah.
because I
I'm too.
genuinely believe that there's a need. Um,
Hey,
all right,
appreciate it.
so let me uh, you said it all. Let me
Yeah, pretty
recap. Let's
much.
recap. Let's recap.
Yeah.
So we learned that Will's parents escaped, were Cambodian refugees, and
Yep.
they escaped
The gen
a genocide. I
genocide.
can't pronounce it. Sorry. We learned that Will discovered pickleball in his uncle's driveway, or maybe it was his first or
Yeah.
second time playing.
Yeah.
we learned that Will would have gone pro if he was a foot taller. Um, or maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not. I don't know
We
about
got a
that.
history. We got a
Yeah.
history of where Will and Chris Olson Pickleball Studio, came together. And that was really fascinating to me to learn that backstory because again, guys, it's you guys are people that I look up to, that I watch regularly,
It's
enjoy
still crazy to me
inspiration
when I
from.
hear that. Mhm. When
Um,
I met all you guys and you
and
guys all told me the same thing, it was crazy at the Nerdy Turdy. I was like, "Really? Whoa."
uh, well, hey, you got influencers in the purest, most honest sense of the word.
Yeah.
Um, and we learned that you are community motivated, community driven. Besides the creativity part, I think everybody who watches your stuff knows that you're a creative person. So sorry I didn't include that in the summary, but to me, the what um is most fascinating to me about what you're doing is not only taking that risk again to start something new, but you're doing it with a clear passion and a clear purpose in mind. And I think when those two ingredients are part of a recipe, um, I think the sky's the limit. And again, I'm really fortunate that you took the time to talk with me and give me the shot to expose, more of you, your thinking, your background, and what you're hoping to do now in pickleball. Because I think there's a lot of people like me who are
Mhm.
wondering, Where's Pickleball Will? Like, you know,
Well, this is what
super
I've been
big on
working
the
on.
scene for a while, and like he kind of went quiet. Did he just get tired of pickleball? No, we learned he's not tired of pickleball. He's still obsessed with pickleball. He's just
Yeah.
looking to get more people into it, and getting more people into it, um, it, it, it is a extraordinary problem to solve that you're trying to solve.
Mhm, mhm. Getting to people, like, the right way too, you know? It's just, like, I want people to come in and have that feeling I had when I first got in. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
me.
yeah,
Uh,
that community, that's what I
Everybody
want.
knows that loves this
Yeah.
sport.
Uh-huh.
What it was like when they first got hooked. And it's
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
contagious feeling that
To
we want
feel.
others
We
to
want
feel, to
people to feel
experience.
that. Yes, and to continue to experience that, you know, and like we talked about a little bit, like we're losing just a little bit of that as pickleball is becoming more and more mainstream and more money is involved, you know, more facilities, the pro scene, and people are getting better. You know, there's a lot of like gatekeeping that is evolving and elitism, you know, when
Yeah,
there shouldn't be, you know, and it's not that, you know, you can't get rid of it all, like, you know what I'm saying? But like to kind of keep that vibe and that aspect of it is something that we should all kind of strive for. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
and here's the thing: like, we have that opportunity. Like, how we can complain about it. Me and Chris used to complain about it all the time, but I was like, what can we do to like change that, right? And like, we can change that by just being those people as new people come to the sport, like truly being true ambassadors of the sport. You know, like, that's what we should all be striving to do if we wanna really grow the sport, you know, in a
I agree.
good and organic and healthy way, you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, man, thank you. Thanks for having me. The honor was all mine, you know? The pleasure was all mine,
No,
dude.
honor was mine. Honor was mine. Um, well, cool.
Cool.
I don't know how to sign off. I
Catch
think
you
that
on
was
the
it.
next
We'll just cut
one.
it before
Yeah.
then. And we'll see
Episode
you
2
in the
coming
next
soon.
one. Episode 2 coming soon.